Well, on the bright side, there is only 1 month of this Orioles season remaining.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the Orioles series loss against the San Francisco Giants this weekend. I'll get you everything you need to know from all three games, including a real rough Dean Kramer start, but some solid hitting on Friday night. Another Trevor Rogers masterpiece on Saturday. And Sugano goes down, and the Orioles get blown out again on Sunday. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. So it was another Orioles series loss. They have not been playing very good baseball as of late, as they dropped 3 of 4 at home to the Astros, all 4 at home to the Red Sox, then lose 2 of 3 to a much worse San Francisco Giants team, which still sits a game under 500, even after their series win over the Orioles. I'll get you everything you need to know from this series, and let's begin with game one on Friday night. Final score from that one, there was a lot of offense and not a lot of pitching being done. It was the Giants 15 and the Orioles 8 in the first game of this series. Let's start with what went right on Friday night. That was Ryan Mountcastle had his biggest game of the year. Mountie goes out there, he's been back for 3+ weeks at this point, coming back from that long-term hamstring injury that he suffered at the end of May and kept him out for over 2 months. But he's been back in there, and because of injuries to O'Neill and Westberg and Adley, he's basically been in there every day. Started at first base on Friday night, and he goes 3 for 5, a single, 2 doubles, and 4 RBIs was kind of the main source of offense for the Orioles in this game. Just his third 3-hit game of the year, and just his second time this season he has had multiple doubles. The 4 runs he drove in are also a season high, and his most RBI since July 28th of 2024 against the Padres. Been over a year since Mountcastle drove in that many runs, and it was big to see him get those hits off a left-handed pitcher, as the lefty Robbie Ray was the starter for the Giants on Friday night, because Mountcastle, and again, it's been a small sample size because he missed over 2 months with the hamstring, but coming into Friday, just a 75 WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year versus a 125 in his career. Basically means he's been a 25% better than league average hitter against lefties throughout his career and 25% worse than average this season. It's been part of his fall off. He had just 1 extra base hit against a left-hander all season entering Friday, and had 2 of them in 2 at-bats on Friday. So at the very least, okay, you're getting Mountie hitting the ball a little harder, getting the 2 doubles against Robbie Ray, and Mountcastle now 6 for 17 lifetime against Robbie Ray, who the Orioles, really got to. Ray entered Friday's start with really quietly having one of the best seasons in baseball, a 2.93 ERA for this kind of middling Giants team, but the Orioles got him. 6 runs in 4 1/3 innings against Ray. Those 6 earned runs, the most he has allowed all year. And despite having a really good career, he's won a Cy Young Award. Right now has a 5.18 ERA in 8 career starts against the Orioles. And some of those came against those really bad Orioles teams when Ray was with the Blue Jays and Brandon Hyde was yelling at him from the dugout. The O's have kind of had his number, and Mountcastle as well. And then Mountcastle followed up with just a good series overall. Went 2 for 5 with a double and a 2-run homer on Saturday. Hit that homer 434 feet to dead center field, was his longest home run of the year. And then had another 2-hit game Sunday, a couple of singles and a walk in Sunday's finale. Goes 7 for 14 with 3 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout in the 3-game series. And you know what? Here in August, since coming off, or I should say here in August, now we're in September, since coming off the IL, hitting 309 with an 821 OPS, been one of the Orioles, if not the best hitter on this team since he returned. It's still a big question about what his future is with this team. He's got one more year beyond this under contract, but do the Orioles fully want to give that spot to Kobe Mayo and Sambo Basallo and rotate in Tyler O'Neill as DH? Would they non-tender him? Would they try to trade him this offseason? At the very least, if he can finish strong, if he can keep this up for the final month, if the O's are looking to deal him, I can certainly rebuild some value that he has definitely lost over the past couple of years. And, it was overall, it wasn't just Mountcastle. It was a good offensive night for the Orioles. You'll take 8 runs on 10 hits. Certainly, Emmanuel Rivera got the start, had a 2-run single. Jackson Holliday reached base 3 times with a couple of hits, but they gave up way too many runs, and that is what went wrong. Pitching and defense as a whole. And it was kind of a switch from that Red Sox series. Orioles were mopped in that 4-game series at home against Boston. They scored only 7 runs in the 4 games in that series, then come out the very next night and score 8 runs in 1 game against San Francisco. But they pitched, you got to be honest, the Orioles pitched really well against a good Red Sox offense in those 4 games. They just couldn't score at all, which is why they lost those close games. That was not the case Friday. 15 runs allowed by the Orioles. Dean Kramer just got absolutely cooked in this one. He allowed 4 runs and threw almost 40 pitches in the first inning alone. I thought they might have to pull him in the first just because there gets to a pitch count, right? When you start nearing 40 pitches in an inning, it gets to the point where just for the safety and health of the player, you got to take him out of there. Now, you really don't want to do it in game 1 of the series in the first inning, but the O's probably got close to that. He does get out of the inning, but it didn't allow him to settle down. Gave up 2 more runs in the second, another one in the third, and his day was done. 3 innings, 7 runs on 9 hits for Kramer, 1 strikeout, and 2 walks on 76 pitches. Kind of a disastrous start. Season high 7 earned runs allowed. Remember, he allowed 6 earned runs in his last start, which was a season high. His 3 innings pitched was his shortest start since June 30th of 2023. It's been over 2 years since Kramer failed to record an out in the 4th inning. Easily, with the 1 strikeout, the runs, the innings, easily, it would not the worst start of his career because he had some against the Blue Jays back in the day when he was struggling, but easily one of the 5 worst starts of Dean Kramer's big league career. Just no good stuff, never found it. You kind of hope to flush that one. Since the terrible April, he's had such a good and consistent season in this Orioles rotation. It's been back-to-back rough starts. Maybe we turn the calendar to September when Dean Kramer usually thrives late in the season. Hopefully see a strong finish from him. It wasn't just Dean, though. The only inning the Orioles did not allow a run was the 6th. I guess shout out to ENERGYTee, who was the only pitcher to throw a scoreless outing in this game. He went an inning and a third scoreless. Corbin Martin gave up 3 runs. Grant Wolfram was charged with only 1 earned run, but he allowed 5 runs because the Orioles made 3 errors and allowed 4 unearned runs to score in a very ugly 7th inning that completely put the game away if it wasn't already. Just kind of some more ugliness and sloppiness that we've seen from this team for a lot of this season. And the shout out for Friday night goes to Kobe Mayo. He hit a very Kobe Mayo home run in the 8th inning, a solo shot, hit it 420 feet, 108 off the bat. It's still been a struggle for Kobe, hitting 189 with a 603 OPS. That was after play on Friday. It was his second hit since August 21st was that home run. It would be really, really, really nice to see him flip it to September and finish this season with a strong month. I have some inkling and some feeling or some potential that the O's are certainly going to be working on his swing a little bit this offseason. It clearly has not translated yet to the big leagues. They still see a lot of potential in him, but it'd be nice to get some confidence for him going into the offseason. But the Orioles couldn't have come away with a lot of confidence from that blowout loss, and it made it 5 losses in a row, which did, on the flip side, make it pretty impressive for the way they responded to end that losing streak with a blowout win this time on Saturday night. And I'll talk about how they did it in Game 2 coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Orioles fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That is promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And FanDuel is great, especially now with us hitting football season, right? We had the full week 1 of college football over the weekend. That was a whole lot of fun to watch. The Terps starting 1-0, which you love as well. But FanDuel, it makes every game more exciting, not just the games where you are cheering for your favorite team. While you're watching your team, maybe you're keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup for NFL week 1. FanDuel makes it easy. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So it was a bit of an embarrassing loss for the Orioles on Friday night, but they turned it around to win on Saturday with a blowout of their own. And before we get to that one, I have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out. So it was an Orioles win on Saturday night, coming back from the 7-run loss on Friday. They get a 10-run victory on Saturday. Orioles 11 and Giants 1 was the final score from Saturday night. Going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that one. And the first thing you need to know is, ho-hum, Trevor Rogers did it again. I mean, what do you say at this point about what Trevor Rogers is doing? Because it's not only how good he's been, it's how consistently good he's been. Another incredible outing from him. 7 innings of 1-run ball for Rogers on Saturday night. 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walks. The only run was allowed on a Willy Adames solo home run in the bottom of the first inning with 2 outs, and he cruised after that. 92 pitches. The big one for Trevor Rogers, which was, I think, eye-opening for him potentially maybe even getting a little bit better as this season rolls on, is that Rogers allowed just 3 hard hit balls in 7 innings in this game. Now, this Giants offense is not the greatest lineup in the world, but the thing about Rogers this year is, despite the amazing numbers, solid strikeout rates, low walk rates, he's getting swings and misses, he is allowing hard contact. Now, he's getting a lot of hard contact on the ground, so a lot of those hard hits were turning into outs. But the one thing you could talk about with Rogers this year, if you were worried about that, and again, he's not going to sustain a 1.39 ERA over a season plus stretch. Nobody's going to do that. But if you're worried that, hey, when he jumps up in ERA, it won't be to 2.39, it'll be to 4.39, you could cite his hard hit rate, which was hovering around 47+%. That's fairly high. That's in the top 10 percentile in terms of highest hard hit rates allowed by pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. He's just getting all that hard hit stuff on the ground, which is working out. If he can deliver you soft contact, which he did on Saturday, there is, as surprising as it is with how good he's been, there is another level if he can get more soft contact to add to the already, ground balls and pop-ups and lazy fly balls he is getting. That's scary to think about, that he could be better if he pitches more like he did on Saturday. I mean, 1.39 ERA through his first 14 starts of the season continues to be an Orioles record. He is the 13th Major League Baseball starting pitcher since 1947 to have an ERA of 1.39 or lower in his first 14 starts of a season. And among those 13 pitchers who have done it, Rogers has the 3rd fewest walks with just 19 in that stretch. And once again, he's just pounding the strike zone with both his fastballs, the 4-seamer and the sinker, then throwing some great changeups. He mixed in the slider and the sweeper. They were both filthy. And basically, he just pounded the zone with every pitch except for the changeup. Every other pitch, 50% or more in the zone. Changeup, only about a third of those pitches were in the zone. But the thing is, he got guys to chase the changeup out of the zone. 64% of his out of zone chase or his out of zone changeups were swung at by Giants hitters. That is a crazy elite chase rate. And I think the thing that shows you all you need to know about Rogers is he gives up the solo home run to Willy Adames in the first inning, tries to throw a high fastball. Adames has a good swing to get to those high fastballs, launches it into the seats to put the Giants up 1-0. So Rogers gets the ball back, faces Adames again later in the game. And what does he do? He learns from his mistakes. He says, all right, Willie, you know my high fastball has worked out this year. Let's do something different. And if you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube page, you can see the pitch sequence. This is from Baseball Savant and StatCast from the second meeting between Adames and Rogers on Saturday night. All he did was throw him 3 straight changeups. First one, kind of middle in for a called strike 1. Second one, right at the knees, swing and miss. Third one below the knees, gets a chase and a swing and miss for a strikeout. It was art. It was beautiful what he did with the changeup. And the funny thing is, Adames came up a couple of more times. He went back to the fastball some and worked in the slider and the sweeper. And Willie, after that home run, had no idea what was coming. And even that home run was surprising because it's just the third home run allowed in 14 starts by Rogers this year. He had gone 6 consecutive starts without allowing a long ball since July 20th. That was the last time someone hit the ball over the fence against Trevor Rogers. It's just been insane. We're so lucky to watch it. He's got a handful more starts here in September to finish off this season strong. But honestly, it doesn't really matter what he does in September as long as he stays healthy. It is an absolute win for what the Orioles were able to get out of Rogers here in 2025 and hopefully beyond as well. Second thing you need to know from Saturday's game is that Samuel Basallo hit his first big league home run, a solo shot going the other way on the first pitch of the 4th inning, put the Orioles up 5-1. It was a curveball from the new pitcher, Tristan Beck. It was a bullpen game for the Giants. He came in through his first pitch. And again, you can see it here if you're watching on the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. Curveball, not a bad pitch, right? Backdoor curve right on the outside corner. Basallo waits on it, drives it the other way over the fence in left field. It was almost robbed. Remember, he should have had a home run in Houston that was taken away by Jesus Sanchez. This one was just over the glove of the left fielder and into the seats. And awesome to see Basallo get a home run, first of many, 376 feet to left field, 103 off the bat. But awesome to see where he did it. Not a lot of left-handed hitters hit home runs at Oracle Park, and especially it is really hard for a lefty to hit a home run to the opposite field at this ballpark. In terms of home run park factors by StatCast, Oracle Park in San Francisco is 29th out of 30 big league ballparks in terms of park factor, which means essentially it is the second hardest park for lefties to hit homers. And Basallo goes oppo for his first career home run. Again, special talent, awesome to watch. Cool moment for him to get that first one. Third thing you need to know from Saturday is that Jeremiah Jackson had another huge game for the Orioles. Got the O's scoring started, I should say. In the third, had a 2-run homer off Carson Seymour, the Giants starter that put the O's up 2-1. Got a high fastball and just smoked it out to left center field. And this has been Jack. I mean, he's been hitting the ball well. It's now a 323 average and 828 OPS on the season so far. He has been smoking the high fastballs specifically. And again, if you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel, you can see the chart here from Baseball Savant and StatCast. This is the WOBA by part of the strike zone for Jeremiah Jackson. And you can see up and in or up down the middle, and this is on fastballs specifically, he is basically the best hitter in baseball right now if you throw him a high fastball and you don't get it high enough out of the zone. But even if it's out of the zone, he's still doing damage on some of these pitches. The way his swing is set up, it means he has a more level swing. He can get to those high fastballs. Guys are trying to blow him by him. It's not working out for opposing pitchers right now. Then he also smoked a 2-run double into right field in the 8th that really put the game away. 4 ribbies on the night, a new career high for Jackson, his first ever big league game with multiple extra base hits with the home run and the double. And he also didn't have a great game Sunday, had some errors, double plays, strikeouts, but he did have a single, and it's now an 11-game hitting streak for Jackson as the Orioles head to San Diego. He's kind of been a bit of a revelation post-deadline for this Orioles team. Fourth thing you need to know from the Saturday win in San Francisco is that Daniel Johnson had an impressive return to San Francisco here in an Orioles uniform. Remember, Johnson was in AAA with the O's most of last year, came up at the end of the year, played in one or two games, then left in the offseason, signed a minor league deal with the Giants, and he was called up to San Francisco, played 14 games, had 31 plate appearances with the big league Giants this year, was mostly in AAA, then DFA'd by the Giants a couple of weeks ago. The Orioles brought him back on waivers, and he hasn't played too much, but he comes back and has 2 hits on Saturday. And Daniel Johnson, when he was first called up by the Giants this year, had 2 hits in his first game, and that ended up being his only multi-hit game in a Giant uniform. Well, he comes back with the O's and gets himself 2 hits, 2 for 3 with a single, a double, and a walk. He scored all 3 times. He was on base, getting the start in left field. First time in his big league career that Daniel Johnson had reached base 3 times. And yeah, he's a 30-year-old. He's out of options, but I'm not opposed to him maybe being like the 5th outfielder, final hitter on the Orioles roster in 2026. I wouldn't be against that. Again, he loses his option years, which could make it a little bit tougher to keep him around long-term, but the Orioles clearly like him. He hits the ball hard. He's got speed. He can, when he doesn't fall down, he can play defense, all 3 outfield positions. But that game from Daniel Johnson, for him to be able to do that, like that was his first start since August 16th, first start in 2 weeks. And he goes out there and gets 2 hits and reaches base 3 times. It was kind of a byproduct of a great offensive performance by the Orioles on Saturday night. 11 runs on 13 hits. They scored 11 plus runs for the 8th time this season. And the 3 home runs that I mentioned, that was the first time since July 29th that the Orioles as a team had hit at least 3 home runs in a game. So good to see the power from Jackson, Mountcastle, and Basallo on Saturday night. And then the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles 11-1 win over the Giants on Saturday is that Sean Dubin came in and closed things out. Now, you could make an argument Trevor Rogers was only at 92 pitches through 7 innings. Absolutely could have gone back out there at least for the 8th inning with the Orioles leading 11-1, but it was a long 3-run top of the 8th for the O's. There was a Giants pitching change. Rogers was sitting for a while. Bullpen wasn't in a terrible spot. I'm totally fine with Rogers' day just kind of being done after 7. They went to Sean Dubin, and when you do that, when you take out a pitcher maybe a little early in a blowout, you want to see the relievers just get this thing over with quick. You got to give props to Sean Dubin for doing that. Like, yeah, he did allow a couple of base runners, but he threw 26 pitches to get through not just the 8th, but the 9th, 2 scoreless innings to finish out this win. Now has 3 scoreless innings as an Oriole since coming over on waivers last week. You rarely see this from a reliever. He threw 6 different pitches. And he only threw 26 pitches in 2 innings. We saw 6 different pitches. So, it's the 4th time this year between the Astros and the Orioles that Dubin has gone at least 2 innings in relief. He actually came up as a starter, so he can give you a little length. And the fact that he's still throwing all 6 pitches, even in relief with the Orioles, little bit, maybe tinfoil hat here, but maybe they want to try out Dubin to kind of stretch him back out as a starter if they can keep him around this offseason. That is a possibility. He's only 29. He's got a lot of offerings. Just something to throw out there about why they may have claimed Sean Dubin and put him on this roster. But it was a nice blowout win to see for the Orioles, snapping the 5-game losing streak. And then all of a sudden, against kind of a middling Giants team, you have a chance to win a series on the road on Sunday. They did not do that. They played worse than Friday, worse than they did in that Red Sox series, and they just got their butts kicked on Sunday afternoon to lose the series. I'll tell you everything that went wrong in the series finale coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I, we make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. And at Prize Picks, it's quick, it's easy, and honestly, it's one of my favorite ways to follow along with football. You just take the more or less on, usually more, Lamar Jackson passing yards, Lamar Jackson rushing yards, Derrick Henry rushing yards, whatever it may be, and you follow along to see if you can get that more or less. So just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineup after you play your first $5. And that's at Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So the Orioles finish off this series on certainly a down note. The big win on Saturday and the big loss on Sunday. Final score from the rubber match and series finale: Giants 13 and the Orioles 2, as San Francisco wins the series, takes 2 of 3 from the O's, and the Orioles head to San Diego with a 61-76 record on the season. Let's start with what went right from Sunday. Jackson Holliday is walking now, and walking a lot. Drew 3 walks on Sunday after he had 2 of them on Saturday and 1 on Friday. 6 walks in a 3-game series. He finishes the month of August with 6 multi-walk games. He had only 1 multi-walk game in the first 4 months of this season entering August, and only 1 in the big leagues in the entirety of 2024. He ends the month of August with 21 walks to 20 strikeouts. You love to see a 21-year-old major league hitter walk more than he strikes out in a whole month for a guy who plays pretty much every single day. That is a good sign. And that was really the biggest kind of negative change we saw from Jackson's numbers between the minors and getting to the big league starting last year was the walks. In 2023, between, all the levels he played at the minors, he had a 17.4% walk rate. That's more than double the league average. In 2024, in AAA, he had a 21.7% walk rate. That's absurdly high. It was a 7.2% walk rate in the big leagues last year. That's not bad. That's like maybe a tick shy of league average, so you'll still take that, but nothing close to what he had done in the minors and kind of what his scouting report was for having these great swing decisions. Then it continued to go down this year. Now he started to hit better, and his overall offensive stats went up this year, but it was just a 5.3% walk rate entering August this season. That is very, very low, especially for a guy that was tagged like Holliday as a prospect. A little bit of a different story. His walk rate pushing up towards 17% in the month of August. But the funny thing is, it really didn't lead to a lot more offensive success for Jackson. And that was kind of the head scratcher, right? He's walking way more, which was kind of one of his many calling cards, but one of the ones that stuck out the most in the minor leagues. And it's fantastic to see, but he finishes August with a 184 average and it's just a 600 OPS in the month. Now, he did finish on a 4-game hitting streak. He had a really good series. He had 2 hits and a double in the final game against the Red Sox before they came to San Francisco. So a strong finish to August was great, but a 600 OPS, I mean, it was a very weird stat line. He had a 184 average and a 272 slugging, but a 328 on base percentage. I mean, a 328 on base percentage still isn't stellar, but you'll take it when it comes with a 184 average. That's a guy who's walking a lot and hitting for essentially 0 power. He had just 6 extra base hits in this month, 4 doubles, a triple, and a homer. And then it was a lot of walks and not much else for him. So really kind of up and down. And again, like he had a 101 WRC plus through July. That's fine for a 21-year-old to be league average. Basically a 70 in August. That's not good. And he's just not making the same contact on the baseball. Like he had a 44% hit rate and a 9% barrel rate. Both great through July. You love to see it. Hard hit rate down to 31%, barrel rate down to 3% in August. Like not really sure what's going on. Now, again, good games to finish off August was great. Actually, final AB in the 9th inning had an RBI double off the wall that they were going to get shut out, but got the Orioles on the board in the top of the 9th on Sunday. So that was certainly good to see for Jackson to get another extra base hit. But what he did in the minors was brought both these skills together, the hard hit and the ability to get on base. He's kind of teetering between the two. And again, he's 21 years old, so it's going to happen. Let's see if in this month of September, which is important for a lot of Orioles, including Jackson Holliday, he can put it together. And if he can walk like he's been doing lately and also hit the ball hard, like we saw him earlier in the season, that's the Jackson Holliday we were promised. Maybe the age 22 Jackson next year is the guy where we see all of that. I know it was kind of a tough August overall, but to see the walks, I think is still a good sign overall. What went wrong from Sunday is it didn't go well for Tomoyuki Sugano. He'd been on such a great run, got his ERA back to 4. He had a 3.27 ERA in his last 8 starts. Sunday was one to forget. 3 1/3 innings, 7 runs on 10 hits, 4 Ks, 1 walk, and a homer on 80 pitches for Sugano. So, not great from the Oriole right-hander. Splitter and sweeper actually were pretty good. They missed more bats than usual, but 3 1/3 innings, shortest start of the year, 7 earned runs, tied a season high allowed for Sugano. I mean, frankly, one of his worst starts of the year. The sinker command was really off. He could not consistently get that pitch in the strike zone. That spells danger for a guy like Tomoyuki Sugano, as we talked about all year. But I will say, he was absolutely BABIP'd to death in this game. Yes, he allowed 10 hits, but he only allowed 3 total hard hit balls in this game, which tells you basically there were some dinks and dunks and lucky ones that fell in there. And you add to the fact that you had, more awful defense from the Orioles in this game. They showed up some in errors, some not in errors. When Daniel Johnson just slipped and fell down on a fly ball to left field, it should have been a fly out. Instead, it turned it into a 2-run triple for Drew Gilbert. I mean, that makes Sugano's line look much, much worse than it should have. There was so much weird stuff that was kind of out of Sugano's control in this game that I'm really not super worried about this start looking bad. We'll see if he can. Now, again, he's, I believe, gonna probably face the Dodgers in his next start next Sunday. So we'll see how he can bounce back from that one. But I'm not super worried. Just a lot of weird stuff. And the shout out for Sunday, and it's got to go to Alex Jackson, right? He gives up 3 runs as a position player pitching in the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, he's not Luis Vasquez, who started this game at shortstop, which is why he didn't come into pitch despite his 0 ERA in multiple pitching appearances this year. Hey, it's not Vasquez, but when you go out there and you don't completely embarrass yourself and the team, you take that, you save a relief arm. Thanks. Thank you for your service, Alex Jackson. But yeah. A lot of bad from the Orioles on Sunday. 13-2 loss. They lose this series 2 out of 3. Does not get easier for the O's as the calendar flips to September. Here, a little Labor Day action. They go to San Diego. The Padres are in a fight to win the NL West against the Dodgers. Potential future Oriole Dylan Cease will take the mound tonight in Game 1 as a 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time start on MASN 2. Cease has been very up and down this year, a 4.82 ERA in 27 starts. He has been bad over his last handful of starts. We'll see if the O's can get to him. And Kyle Bradish takes the bump for start number 2 on the year, coming back from Tommy John. Start number 1 was great. 6 innings, 2 runs, 10 Ks, no walks against the Red Sox last week. We'll see if he can replicate that tonight in San Diego. And then I will be back on Tuesday. We'll recap Game 1 between the O's and the Padres. We'll talk a bit about Tyler Wells, who is set to make his season debut on Tuesday night. And we'll also fully discuss what the Orioles roster moves are. Because remember, today is September. The roster expands from 26 to 28 players. The Orioles can add an extra pitcher and an extra hitter to the roster before tonight's game. We'll talk about what moves they did indeed make. But that's all coming up on tomorrow's episode. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.